John Liss. I work with the Mexican Solidarity Network and with the State Power Caucus.
And I'm Grant Williams. I've been with one of the largest American unions for 40 years. It's the Service Employees International Union that represents a lot of Mexican Americans and a lot of people in the service industries, healthcare, and the public work.
I mean, I think there's two big visions of how the world can work and how peoples can relate. So there's solidarity, what we can do for each other and how we can lift each other up and support each other. And then there's a dog eat dog. We're all in a fight that only a few people can win. So we're with the people, hopefully with Morena and others here in Mexico, that believe we can do many good things together through solidarity. So we focus in the United States, it's building the movement to stop this, to stop the violence on the street that's coming from the government, to stop the abductions and kidnappings that are happening in cities across the country, especially Minneapolis, as people have probably seen. So different related folks are working on organizing there. Is it elections? Yes. Is it mass mobilizations? Yes. Is it solidarity and mutual aid? Is it in simple levels driving people so they can get to school or to work or to a medical or food services? All those things sort of come together in the movement we're trying to build. And then at the national level, we're trying to build the multiracial, multinational movement that it's going to take to sort of transform our country.
I would say I live in Chicago and I have children in Minneapolis, and my sister married a Mexican American, and it's a different level of assault and violence. And what's an opportunity is that American citizens are now realizing that now it's the immigrants, but we could be next for our political beliefs or color of our skin or whatever. And there's a moment we think is an opportunity to mobilize a broader fight back, if you would. I mean, I would say, John, that's maybe different. Obama was very wrong about what he did as well, but it wasn't so violent and in your face. And this is almost a cruelty, intentional cruelty to satisfy the racist in America.
I would just add, in terms of the actual numbers, Obama was arresting people. His numbers came from arresting people crossing the border, right, primarily. And in this case, we have sort of broad hunting down people like animals in the street, in their homes, in their schools, in the hospitals, in churches, wherever. And whether or not, mostly based on how they look. Do they look brown or black or of color? And that's different. So that creates a wave. There's a large psychological aspect to the sort of repression, trying to create a wave of fear, trying to create a wave of people, quote, self-deportating. So those are all the sort of things we're doing different than I think we've ever experienced in my lifetime.
And we have a Supreme Court that ruled that it is okay for ICE to grab somebody based on the appearance, color of their skin. And that's very new. And they are, some of your followers or viewers have seen, they are grabbing US citizens because they're brown or look Mexican. And they're screaming, I'm a US citizen, and they still lock them up for 3 days. They have their passports, they don't care. It's just a very different oppression, I think.
I mean, the major industries, agriculture, hotels and restaurants, all those areas of work, building services where Grant's union works, are all, workers aren't showing up because they're afraid to show up with good reason, and so it's having an impact. I think there's even business owners, some, that are slowly trying to figure out how to join the fight. They're also very reluctant to do anything publicly because they're fearful of losing their business at the same time.
Here's something my family's experienced. My daughter's husband belongs to a church that is both Anglo and Mexican, and the Mexican service, or in Spanish service, attracts usually 900 people. Massive church in Minneapolis, they had 9 people last Sunday. From 900 to 9 people because of the fear. And the same is happening with jobs, construction, janitorial, because the Mexican Americans are a big, important part of the American workforce. And I think people are beginning to understand that this is a real problem for the economy.
There's been mass protests. The No Kings rallies that we've had, 2-3 rallies, bring out some of the largest marches and rallies ever in this country, 2 to 3 million people coming out. That's predominantly white middle class or somewhat older, but there's other people fight in many different ways now. So I think people, some are silent, some are speaking out, and I think people are increasingly trying to figure out how to speak out and what does that look like. And again, I say elections may be a piece of it, but that's not enough. But there's many, so I think, yes, there's a majority. You can look at polling or other numbers. There's a growing majority that are both terrified, horrified, and looking for ways forward. And I think we'll be seeing over the next 6 months how this plays out, I think somewhat differently. I think people thought maybe initially you could sort of be quiet and it might go away, and now I think people are realizing you got to fight.
And what's been happening is just the cravenness of the corporate structure. The people that run the institutions, universities, have just been giving in to the bully Trump again and again. And I think people, I frankly think the incident in Minneapolis where people saw the video of the people being killed, and then the NOM and the government says that they were terrorists, and then people watching with their own eyes, that's just not true. But my government's lying to me, and they're killing an American citizen, a white person, not just brown and black people, in front of our eyes, and they think they can get away with it. I think was a bit of a inflection point, historical inflection point. And I think that you could see that's why the resistance is beginning to grow in all the sectors of society now. And hopefully it's enough to stop them from, not letting us vote or whatever, getting any worse. Hopefully we're at the beginning of the real fight back.
So we work closely with group Siembra in North Carolina, large Mexican community in North Carolina, agricultural and urban. And there was a whole similar ICE raid, border patrol raids, and there was resistance, African American, Mexicana, white, massive church, huge church meetings, hundreds of people, schools where all the students walked out. After a couple weeks, ICE basically left. So you have that. You have the extreme case of Minnesota. You have a union leader from SEIU and others in Los Angeles, really a lot of children of immigrants. Those are all examples, people doing what they can. I'll give an example of our work in Virginia. We were organizing parents to demand free after-school care. We don't have that in most of our state, in much of our country. And our immigrant leaders, right after Trump was elected and put in office, said they couldn't go to the meeting. Can we do it on Zoom? Well, the school board said, no, can't do it on Zoom. So we had volunteers, mostly white, middle-class folks, who picked up people, drove to the meeting, talked in the car, and then went into the meeting. So we ended up with having twice as many people at the meeting and one free childcare. So there's different ways that different people can participate. It's really important that it's not just one sector or the other. It's really going to take a broad front of people to win. Wherever there's the most, like Minnesota, I mean, I know many of the organizations up there have, advanced and developed mutual aid, not to create dependency, but to sort of get through an emergency situation. So diapers, food, what have you, there's distribution networks set up in and around Minneapolis. And so that's happened in other cities too. Again, not to create dependency, but to get through the hardship of the current moment. And
I think the actual action of filming and watching ICE is an act of resistance that is slowing ICE down. And I think it's not an accident this happened in Minneapolis, because Minneapolis and Chicago have histories of people fighting back. And I think now for like me as Anglo or white person, I am having to make the same choice. Look at my younger people doing this, I should be doing this. And I think lots of people are waking up and saying, I should be a part of this. One, these are good people we want in our country. Two is, I could be next. They're building warehouses to hold 80,000 people. That could be me and John next. It's not just made for immigrants. It could be used for anybody.
Actually, I'll just note, even in Virginia, so ICE had a contract to buy a warehouse that would hold 1,500 detainees, and they did it in a very conservative area of the state. Yet when they had the hearing to get approval, 1,000 people showed up saying, we don't want to sell this warehouse, we don't want to give the zoning. The owner was actually Canadian, a Canadian corporation. They said they don't want to lease it to ICE, and so that at least for now, one of the ways to stop ICE is their logistics depends on corporate America working with them and certain levels of approval, and some of those are being denied. So I think there's a growing movement around that stuff. Yeah, like our work, we are networked with about 20 state-based organizations across the country. And just generally, if you look at polling and look at even smaller local elections, the Democrats who are in opposition to the current regime have been getting 10 to 15 percentage points ahead of normal and winning races. So there's been a number of races, some that were in strong conservative areas where Democrats, pro-immigrant, pro-working class candidates are winning. So I think if we have free and fair elections, there's really good chances of Democrats winning control of the Congress, which will be one lever to start slowing this stuff down and stopping it.
In fact, last week in Texas, there was an election for a state senate, and it was a 31-point swing away from Trump. And it was largely the Latino vote that left because I think a lot of ICE. So Trump won that area by 17 points. This Democrat, who was a union leader, won it by 14 points, a 31-point swing. The problem is Trump is watching those numbers and Republicans, and they're trying to scheme and figure out how to make it hard for people to vote. For example, do they send ICE out to polling places the day of the election to scare away even citizens from voting? Because they know because of how they look, they might be taken away for 3 days.
So in part, it's a federated system, so that strong organization at the state level, from the governor to civic organizations, community organizations, mobilizations of unions and businesses, et cetera, a broad front. You can sort of force things through in many states. At the national level, it's going to be hard, right? That's part of the ongoing battle. There's going to be some that Democrats, our hope is that certain Republicans will break off from the Trump machine and we create sort of a different majority that can at least stand for free and fair elections. So that's like a big fight between now and November. Like I said, if it's a free and fair election, I'm fairly confident. If votes are stolen, voting machines are wheeled away and messed with, it's going to be much more difficult.
And the problem is the judges are appointed by the president. So there are judges appointed by Biden and Obama who believe in democracy. So we win sometimes in cases. Other times a Trump judge gets it and we lose. And the Supreme Court now is more of a Trump dominated. So that's what's really frightening. But you asked what you can do. I think one of the things for both John and I was very excited to come here today, as was John, is that the vision you are creating here is amazing. It's uplifting for people like us living in a very dark time right now. So keep doing what you're doing here and win and bring people out of poverty and expand the rights. Because I think what happens here or Brazil, places like that, Europe, matters a lot right now.
I mean, I think you all prioritize putting the people from the bottom on the top, right, and moving people up. And so that's like a real good model for what we would try to do too. How do we shift those resources and create a society that works for all? So that's an ongoing effort. I would also say there's 40 million people of Mexican descent in the United States. You can count the numbers, many who are citizens, many who are eligible to vote, many who are eligible to participate. So to me, those people, hopefully working with Morena, but can be decisive in U.S. elections and activities.
I would say, and I'm not the only one, experts say where goes the Latino vote, goes America. So it was obviously a huge African American population that largely was vote Democratic. White folks, you never know. But then the Latino vote is decisive. Obama wins because of the Latino vote, Mexican American vote. Biden wins because Trump pulled back a large number in 2024, and the results. So in the sense that your folks are talking to family in America, just getting them to recognize the stakes, why it's important. I would also say what you have all done with healthcare and making it a universal thing, right? And housing and pensions. We have not tied electoral politics in America, not we, but the Democratic Party, to outcomes, economic benefits. And we've got to learn from you all how to do that. We have to give poor people a reason to vote. And I don't think we've done that. It's make the pie bigger. Like you said, get the corruption out, more money for everybody, but bring up the bottom. Everybody, as a union, our whole idea is raising the floor because then everybody benefits. The people making $20 one day make $30 because the people at the bottom are making $15 or $20. And so it just explaining that to people is hard. And we have a party with a lot of donors who don't really want that. They don't understand that. That's not what they're about. And so because of our campaign finance systems and weakness of our unions, we don't have that same kind of movement that you have here. But that's kind of work that John and I are trying to build.
I mean, I think, again, I'll just come back to the notion of solidarity that we learn from the experience here of Morena in Mexico. Mexican Americans, people of Mexican descent are key parts of the social movement we're trying to build in the United States. And to the extent we can give support back and forth, I think that's going to be pretty important during this moment, both in terms of the global situation as well as within our country.
And I would just say you should be very proud of what you've accomplished. And it's for people like us, it's always good to know there is a place in the world where good things are happening, even on the really terrible times, because it gives you hope and a sense of potential. And that's very real.